There is a $60 trillion ghost market.
You never see it. You never touch it. Your parents probably never learned about it. But it helps decide your job, your rent, your mortgage rate, and how bad the next crisis will feel. This ghost market is called the Eurodollar system. It's like a shadow version of the US dollar, living in banks all around the world. Let's start super simple. Most people think money is paper bills and coins. But today, almost all money is just numbers in a bank database. Think of your money as marbles in a jar. When you put money in the bank, you're really giving your marbles to the bank's jar. In return, the bank gives you a promise, an IOU. Now imagine there are two kinds of promised dollars. Dollars in US banks under US rules, and dollars in foreign banks outside US rules. The first kind is easy. US bank, US dollars, US laws. The second kind is where things get weird. So now the question is, who controls those dollars? Sitting in a bank, far away from America. Back in the 1950s, the world was in the Cold War. The Soviet Union sold oil and got paid in US dollars. But they were scared that if they kept those dollars in American banks, the US government might freeze them. So they sent their dollars to European banks, especially in London. Those banks held dollar deposits there. The money was in US dollars, but the accounts were in European banks. These offshore dollar deposits started to be called Eurodollars, simply because many were held in European banks. Soon it wasn't just the Soviets. Companies, oil exporters, and rich people started using European banks to hold and move US dollars. And those banks realized something huge. They could also create new dollar deposits when they made loans. Bob in London can say, "I'll lend you $100 million. Here is your new dollar deposit in our London branch." No physical money moved from the US. The bank just created a new dollar promise, a ghost dollar. So now we have dollars inside the US, watched by the Federal Reserve, and dollars outside the US, created by foreign banks. These offshore dollars, created as bank promises, are what people mean by the Eurodollar system, our ghost market. Once banks found this trick, the Eurodollar world exploded. Over decades, the ghost city grew and grew. Big companies, governments, and banks all over the world wanted dollars. Dollars became the favorite money for trade, loans, and saving. They didn't need those dollars to sit inside America. They just needed trusted dollar promises. So offshore hubs became ghost dollar centers. Why did people love Eurodollars? Offshore dollars often meant fewer rules, easier cross-border moves, and sometimes better rates. If you're a big company, you might think, why deal with strict US rules if I can borrow dollars offshore? Now imagine a game. There are a few real dollars and many more ghost dollar promises. As long as everyone trusts the promises, the game works. But if something scary happens, everyone rushes to grab real dollars at once. Over time, this ghost dollar system fed many big booms and busts in oil countries, in Latin America, in Asia, and around the whole world. In the 1970s, oil exporters earned many dollars and placed them in Eurodollar banks, which then lent those dollars to countries like those in Latin America. When interest rates rose, borrowers struggled. People worried the ghost dollar promises might not be paid back, and many countries faced a debt crisis. In 1997, several Asian countries had huge dollar debts. When confidence broke, investors rushed for dollars, local currencies crashed, and economies suffered. Then came 2008. On the surface, it looked like a US housing problem, but in the shadows, the Eurodollar system made it much worse. Banks in Europe borrowed huge short-term dollar funding from the Eurodollar market and used it to buy long-term US mortgage assets. It was like borrowing money every day to buy a house, hoping you can always roll over the loan. When the assets looked risky, that bridge began to crack. When US housing fell, banks stopped trusting each other's dollar promises. Eurodollar lending froze. The ghost city was in trouble. Foreign banks suddenly needed real dollars to survive, but they couldn't print them. The US Federal Reserve can create base dollars, the most real kind inside the banking system. In 2008, the Fed saw the fire was global. So it opened swap lines, special pipes to send dollars to other central banks.
A swap line is like a water pipe for dollars. The Fed gives dollars to another central bank and takes that bank's currency as collateral. Then, that foreign central bank lends those dollars to its own banks. It's like the Fed is quietly lending to foreign banks through their home central banks. This is how, in practice, the US Federal Reserve became the world's dollar firefighter. In 2020, when the pandemic hit, it happened again. Markets crashed and investors rushed for dollars. People everywhere sold assets and wanted the safest thing they could think of, dollars. The Fed answered with even bigger swap lines and new programs to push dollars into markets around the world. So even if you live far from the US, your interest rates, your stock market, and your currency are pulled by this ghost dollar plumbing. When offshore dollar funding is easy, countries can borrow in dollars and money flows in. But if a dollar squeeze hits, their local currency can fall against the dollar, and paying back that dollar debt gets harder. When dollar funding stops, investment slows, credit shrinks, and regular people can lose jobs and savings. Easy dollar funding can make things feel sunny. A sudden stop can make the same world feel stormy. Most of this happens between big banks and central banks, but the final impact lands on your job, your rent, and your savings. Let's put it all together. First, modern dollars are mostly bank promises, not just paper bills. Your balance is the bank's IOU to you. Second, Eurodollars are dollar promises created and held in banks outside the US, in an offshore ghost dollar universe. Third, over decades, this offshore system grew into a huge ghost market worth tens of trillions of dollars. Fourth, when fear hits, everyone tries to turn ghost dollar promises into real dollars at the same time, causing dollar shortages and crises. Fifth, in big panics, the US Federal Reserve uses swap lines and emergency programs to send dollars into the system and calm the fire. So the money world is not just what you see in your wallet or your app. There is a hidden dollar universe behind it. It helps decide who gets credit, which countries boom, and how bad the next crash feels. Now you know what the Eurodollar system is, in simple terms. A giant offshore network of ghost dollar promises. A hidden system of promises, ghost dollars, and a central bank that often has to rescue it. If you want deeper episodes on how banks create money, how oil exports feed dollar power, or how other currencies fight the dollar, tell us in the comments what you want next. Hit like if this helped you see money in a new way. Subscribe for more simple, animated economics. And share this with someone who still thinks a dollar is just a piece of paper. Thanks for watching.